Good evening. It's right now 6 o'clock and you're at the Stanislaus Council of Governments. It's September 17th, 2025. If you would, please go ahead with roll call.
Member Chiesa,
Here.
Member Graywall.
Here.
Chair Buck Condit.
Here.
Member Chance Condit. Member Withrow.
Here.
Member Lopez. Member Carr.
Here.
Member Swallen. Here. Member Escutia Brayton. Here. Member Wright.
Here.
Member Graham.
Here.
Member Gilbert. Here. Member Clausel. Member Hernandez. Here. Member Phillips. Here. Member Gokin.
Here.
And Caltrans ex officio Sylvia Dyack. Yeah. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on, public comment. I have one comment card, Carolyn Newman.
Hello. Okay. Just real quick. The online calendar says that the Technical Advisory Committee is October 7th, but their last agenda said September 30th. Which, if any or both of these is correct? That was my only note.
Thank you. Yeah. Jose, you want to answer that?
The calendar, the TAC committee is listed on the 7th on the website, but on their last agenda it was listed for September 30th.
Let me pull that up. I have such opportunity. The correct date for the next TAC meeting is September 30th. It's coming up fast.
Thank you, Jose. And that is my only comment card that I have. Anyone else like to make public comment? Anyone online? Okay. Going to go ahead and close public comment. Move on to presentation, Measure L website update. Convey.
Hi, good evening. I'm just going to introduce Sybil, who is here from Convey. She's going to be talking to us today about the Measure L website. Convey has been doing a lot of work in the background to get that website up and running, and we're happy to share it with you this evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I understand you have a quite full agenda tonight, so I'll go pretty quickly, but stop me if you have any questions. Next slide. So today we will talk about the website redesign. And just as an ancillary thing, we did do recently some press release about the CTC funding, and we've been working on a lot more communications. But because the website is a real central focus and a central repository of information, some of the communications we will be rolling out once the website's live. Next. Okay. I don't know who here has seen the old website. I think we can all agree that it's pretty outdated. There are some challenges to that site. The information is not particularly clear or transparent. The content's old. There's gaps, and the user experience and design is lacking. It's not as modern as we'd like it to be. Not to dwell on that, I think we can all agree that we did need a new website. So next slide. Okay, our goals here are to provide clear and accessible information, showcase the projects and the way that the money is being spent, display a comprehensive project communications, to describe, again, how money is being spent by Measure L, and a modern and user-friendly design. Now you'll see over on here, the left is the mobile view. and the right is the desktop view. We always start with mobile first because many studies have shown that most people access websites on their phones. So we'll be looking at the desktop version tonight, but everything works really nicely on a phone. Next slide. Okay, we have gone now to the MLOC and to the Management and Finance Committee and obtained their comments on the website. We have incorporated their comments, and I don't necessarily want to walk through each of their items, but I just want to let you know that their input and their feedback has been incorporated in what you'll see tonight. Next slide. Oh, now we're gonna pop over to the website itself. And again, I'll walk through it pretty quickly, but stop me if you'd like. And we can also provide the test URL. It's not live yet, but just for us, if you want to review it after the meeting. Okay. All right, this is the homepage. You'll see at the top the main navigation. It's a fairly simple but rich content site. We're on the home page. There's about page, projects page, and funding page. Now, what we see here is the first page that comes up. That's what they call above the fold. Scroll down a bit. Right off the bat, we want to make sure that people know what Measure L is. Make that very apparent. As we scroll through, each of these bars is kind of leading to also to something within each of those 4 pages. So it's another way to get people involved in the content vertically as opposed to going to the navigation horizontally. So showcasing Measure L in action is about projects. We have a slideshow here with some of the completed local projects. Just so people get a taste of what Measure L is and what it's paying for. That you can see that this slide, it's before and after pictures, and it's scrolling through a number of projects around. This will be continually not continually, but regularly updated as new projects become available. Okay, member agencies. This is links to all of the member agencies. If you click on any of these links, it will go to the member agency page that does talk about Measure L, so people can find their own community and delve deeper into what those communities are spending the money on. And keep going. The bottom here is a really, excuse me, quick overview of where the money goes. And then you can see there's a link that says learn more about funding, and that'll take you to the funding page. And then this is just the basic standard footer. Okay, let's go to the next about page. We have incorporated pretty strong messaging that talks about the benefits, building a better future, local roads first, and you can see that here. Scroll down. Talks about StanCog and their responsibility for overseeing and managing the Measure L monies. Go down a little bit. Then talking about accountability and talking about the Measure L Oversight Committee, the members, it's got the meetings and the agendas and so forth. And then we are showing in the About page just a little bit of the, the strategic plan and some of the administrative documents. And that's primarily for transparency on the website. And I think that's the bottom of this page. Oh yeah, and of course we have the annual reports. Okay, now pop over to the next projects page. These are just featured projects. It's not all projects. And of course we're doing 132 first. That's the big one. Try to show a photo and a quick description. And we've just picked these, trying to do some geographic representation of projects. This one is in Riverbank, and these will change out as time goes on. There's the Vets Van. I mean, that's a nice program. North County Corridor, etc. This is the project, the regional projects that are, part of the Measure L original program. It's just a list. And we do talk about like what stage each project is in. Okay, and then the finance page or the funding page. Okay, so this is real basic. We're not getting into much deep detail about the funding, but we are talking about things like, how much money is anticipated to be raised, talking about matching grants and so forth, and where the money is going, local funds versus the regional funds, and the requirement, for roads and traffic management and bike ped. We have a very high level expenditures versus revenue snapshot. And then, like I said, this gets into some of the attracting grants from the outside, so that people can see that this is just the seed money to attract more money to the county. There's some information about the audit. Okay, I know I ran through it really fast. Any comments or questions?
Thank you, Sybil, for that update. Any questions for Sybil?
We have one more slide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right. I'm going to pop back to the, yeah. Yeah, okay, next steps. Oh, okay. We do want to push the website live. Once we incorporate any comments we hear tonight, we will keep the content updated regularly. We are now, we've already developed templates for social media, and we have a 6-month kind of editorial calendar of things that we're going to start pushing out on social media. And we will be doing ongoing coordination and collaboration with member agencies to get their input and, develop content based on their projects. Okay, one more slide. There we go.
Now it's correct. All right. All right. I'm back on track now. Go ahead, Rose.
Hi,
Hi.
thanks for that presentation. Well, that's exciting that we're at this stage. If you can go back, can you go back to the testing site, please? I noticed that at the top right, there's a little English and then it has like a little world next to it. Can you tell me more about that?
That's a language switcher. That's a tool that, a lot of websites use. It's a little app that you put in there and it translates into pretty much any language you want.
My
Yeah,
question. So
mhm.
most any language can be,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what,
Most websites have that now. It's pretty darn good. It's machine language translation, but it's just that particular technology has gotten so good over time, over the last, even 3 years with AI and everything else, that the language translations are really, really accurate.
thank you very much.
Any other questions? I'm going to go ahead and open this up to public comment if anybody comment. Thank you for your presentation. Very informative. Thank you for your work.
Well, thank you for having me tonight.
All right, moving on to the consent calendar. We do have public comment for 6A. Are there any consent calendar items that the board would like to pull? All right, Carolyn, if you would like to come up and comment.
Yeah, it's a minor thing. I know we have some members who aren't here and some who haven't been here in a while. I'm just wondering, what is the policy for your approved alternates? And are any of them going to be attending in the stead of the members that aren't available? Like missing a night is, not a big deal, but I was just curious if there was a policy on that.
I'm going to answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Newman. We do have a policy for our regular members and our alternates. It's set forth in our joint powers agreement. Members of the board are determined by by the member agency itself. So I'll just use City of Modesto for an example. They identify their 3 members from amongst their full council, and they also identify their alternates, and they provide those to us each year. If a member is not able to attend, they identify us and notify us at least 24 hours in advance that our alternate member will be attending. All of the member agencies have alternates with the exception of Stanislaus County because all 5 members of the Board of Supervisors are on the board.
Thank you, Bonnie. All right, I'm going to bring it back to the board for a motion. Second. I have a first and a second. Did you get those? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. Moving on to discussion items. This 7A, motion to approve by resolution 25-03, the memorandum of understanding for sub-allocation of local partnership competitive program for the 7th Street Bridge replacement project. Jose Luis?
Yes, good evening, board. Jose Luis Casares, I'm your Programming and Program Delivery Director. I have 3 items that all deal with programming, which is fancy terms for money. This first project is the 7th Street Bridge Replacement Project. It's no stranger to this agency. This is an MOU for pass-through funding. Next slide, please. So this is a slide that should be familiar to the board. I brought it last time. The 7th Street Bridge Replacement Project received 15 million in, that's an acronym, the Local Partnership Competitive Program. And its next steps are to receive an allocation by the CTC, that's scheduled for December. It just went out to bid, so they're expecting to award also in December, which that doesn't happen very often when an agency can award the same month they got permission from the CTC to advertise. And then they're scheduled to begin construction in February. Now, in order to do these steps, the county needs a memorandum of understanding with StanCog, and I'm going to explain why. Next steps, or next slide. So StanCog, because we have the Measure L sales tax, we fall into a special club in California. These are the self-help counties. We are the only ones that get to compete for local partnership program competitive funds. And we, the StanCog board, we StanCog, told the CTC that we were in favor of we prioritized our applications and we prioritized the 7th Street Bridge as our region's #1 priority. And we applied on behalf of the county. The county filled out the application, but we, as the eligible recipient, applied and we received Measure L. We received local partnership program funds. So the MOU says StanCog applied for the funding. Stanislaus County, you're doing the rest. You're going to construct the 7th Street Bridge. We both agree that the money that StanCog is entitled to, that is for this project, will pass through directly to the county. And the county will assume all the responsibilities for the local partnership program competitive funds, which includes if there was any cost overrun or any issues with the project, those are the counties. Now, I want to just add a little bit to this that's going to help with the next item after this. This project, the 7th Street Bridge, we've been waiting for it to get built, and it's no fault of the counties, but it's been fully funded for, 5-7 years now. 80% of the funding is the Highway Bridge Program, and the other 20% of the funding is, local funds, split half and half between the City of Modesto and the County of Stanislaus. Just because a project is fully funded, though, I'm here to tell you as your money guy here at StanCog, that doesn't mean you take your foot off the gas pedal for pursuing funding. We encourage the county to go and apply for these LPP funds, 15 million. That 15 million that the county received for this project is freeing up 15 million of local agency funds split evenly between the city and county. So now the city can take its 7.5 million and spend it on other local transportation projects in the city. The county can take its 7.5 million of what was mostly local partnership program funds and spend that on other cities, on other streets or bridges within the county. Next slide. And I think I'm on to questions.
Bring it back to the board. Any questions for Jose Luis?
I do. If it's fully funded, how come it's not moving forward very fast? The reason I asked.
Understood.
The reason I asked was this bridge is been horrible for decades.
Yes,
And it's been one of the worst rated bridges in the country, let alone the state. And I drive across it daily multiple times, and if you get stuck on it, it vibrates and you can feel it ready to fall. It's held up by metal piers that aren't like permanent, and it's a huge liability, not only to the state or to the city, but also the county.
agreed. Could we go back just a couple slides to the image? I love this image because, I mean, that looks like a glitch in the matrix. Like that shouldn't happen with a bridge. This bridge is what, over 100 years old. It's overdue for replacement. What's funny is it's going slow and it's going fast at the same time, depending on when you ask the question. It is September right now. That bridge is going to begin construction in February. Like that is wicked fast for this bridge to start work. The county entered into a high-cost bridge agreement, which is a difficult agreement to get with Caltrans headquarters, and they did it. They did it much faster than the city of Sacramento, where I'm from, got their bridge done. But the last, 5-7 years, right? So I wasn't here, but my understanding is there's been a public utility issue. I've heard Dave Lehman, Public Works Director, speak on this project. And when you pull up to a railroad crossing, there's a whole science about when those railroad crossing arms come down. If they come down too late, someone could die. If they come down too early, you're there impatient and you feel like, maybe there's a mistake because I don't see a train, I don't hear a train. And maybe if you're feeling eager, you're just going to go under those guards. So they can't have them come down too early. They can't have them come down too late. There was some disagreement that had to be settled in court. And that took a while. Now, there are people here on this board that could probably answer your question even better than that. And maybe in the audience, I would invite anyone if they have more to answer for that question.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Rose.
It's undeniable that a project like the bridge here is in need of repair and it has safety concerns. I'm just curious, what was your thought process in identifying this particular project as the most grievous safety concern? Even though it's fully funded. For example, I'm certain Supervisor Withrow wouldn't disagree that there's much safety concerns like in the Maze 132
Sure.
project. I'm wondering if this new funding wouldn't be best served on another project with grievous safety concerns as well.
Absolutely. So I need to be careful that I do not over answer this question because I love these topics. My job is to give out transportation funding, and that's really fun to do, but it's also to go pursue transportation funding. And this is all I've spent 20 years working on. So I'm specialized in this. When there's transportation funding available, you crack open your regional transportation plan, you crack open all your priority documents, and you try to figure out what's going to be the best project to go get that money. And sometimes the best project isn't everyone's top priority. It could be a lower priority. And best, it's a big word, right? There's usually a set of criteria that, goes on for pages for what is like the best project. When the local partnership program competitive guidelines and call for projects went out, your staff here at StanCog, it was not acceptable for us to not apply for this program. I mean, it's made for StanCog as a Measure L agency, as a self-help county. Our guiding document is the strategic plan. It says, hey, look at our Measure L regional projects, go get funding for those. It has a sentence that says State Route 132, that's our #1 priority, and it even specifies for a local partnership program. State Route 132 is more than one project the way it's being developed. Phase 1 is done. That doesn't need LPP, but it did get LPP in the past. The right-of-way for the Dakota to Gates and the interchange, both were fully funded and underway, and one of them also had LPP, I think, formulaic funds. Excuse me, and the Phase 1 also had local partnership formulaic. I'm sorry to drop more acronyms, but we receive some of these funds on a formula basis as well that we don't have to compete for. What project should compete for this was an interesting internal debate. because State Route 132 Dakota to Gates, we thought we were going to be really strong in the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, like round, and Sylvia's nodding her head because we spent months working on that. We had to get Caltrans partnership if we wanted to be successful. When you go for Trade Corridor Enhancement Program funds, you can't use local partnership program to match it. The state won't let you match their money with their money. Like, they want your money to match their money. So, and the most we could really get was like 15 million, where TCEP, we were asking Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, we were asking for 67 million. So Dakota to Gates, interestingly, our number one priority fell out of the running because it didn't need this money, and this money couldn't help it. It would be like, I don't know, trying to like wear two hats on top of your head. You'd have to pick which one. You'd have to choose LPP or choose TCEP. You have to give one back. So then the interchange, that's the other big project in our region. The interchange is not ready for this kind of money. This kind of money, you have to be shovel ready, fully funded, ready to go. The best projects that are fully funded and shovel ready are the ones that we've stopped looking for money for because they're fully funded. They're shovel ready. 7th Street Bridge is that sort of project. It's fully funded. It's been ready, as Member Graham mentioned, for like 5 or 7 years. And it's, as you can see, it is quite ready. This might be the first project from the LPP competitive program to receive an award. So then we had to go look through the rest of the projects. And really what it came down to was projects that were fully funded, shovel ready, but perform really well. It was this and Ace Rail. Specifically, it was the Modesto and Ceres stations together. And we brought all this to the policy board. There's PowerPoints on this. But the policy board and staff agreed that this was actually a higher priority than the stations. We're all still not exactly sure when ACE is going to come to our region, but we know 7th Street Bridge is going to happen. And just look at this picture. We thought this would sell itself, and it did. We got 15 million in a very competitive statewide process. So I hope I didn't over answer your question, but you asked me something that I'm very passionate about.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, if
Yes.
I may, there are 2 comments online asking for the policy board members to speak closer to the microphone, please.
Okay, we hear the request. You speak a little closer to the microphones, please. That way everything gets heard. Any other questions? All right, I'd like to open it up to public comment. Any public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'm going to bring it back to the board for additional comments or motion.
Before I make a motion, I just want to point out that this is for self-help counties only. When we talk about leveraging, this is how we sold Measure A. This is one of the main components. So we're able to leverage our local dollars and bring in more dollars from outside. So this is a good thing. Make the motion.
I have a first.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. All right, moving on. 7B, motion to adopt by resolution 25-04, the Measure L Regional Control Project Cooperative Agreement with Stanislaus County for plans, specifications, and estimates for the Faith Home Road Expressway project. Jose Luis, you're back up.
Thank you. Faith Home Road, I have to admit, it's actually not a project I'm that familiar with. If you have project-specific questions, as many of you may have, I would ask that we bring the county before the board to give a special presentation on it. It is a gigantic project. It is one of our Measure L regional projects that the voters passed. Next slide. So what we're asking, we're recommending the policy board, actually, we took to the committees and the committees also recommend policy board approval, is really pro forma. I mean, the voters already passed this money. The board already said, hey, this money is available in our strategic plan. Now we're asking the board to allow us to enter into an MOU with the county so that they can receive this money on a reimbursement basis. So a little bit of detail. I know it's a table, and tables can be a little bit of a challenge to make sense of. This table shows that there's 10 million set aside by StanCog for Faith Home Road in the strategic plan. And based on our analysis of our own cash flow and the county's analysis of how fast they might spend the money, there's 1.5 million programmed in each of the first 2 years of 25-26 and 26-27, 3 million programmed in 27-28, and 4 million in 28-29. 29 for a total of 10 million, but that was to do plans, specifications and estimates, which is basically design, environmental design. And it's also for right of way. Now, the county is really just wanting to start its environmental design process. And so they've asked for 8 million of this 10 million. The committees all recommended approval of it. The management finance, I'm going to get this wrong. Was it the Measure L Oversight Committee? No. Or was the Management and Finance Committee had concerns that, because our strategic plan says at some point we're going to need a bond. And their concerns were that the county might spend too much money on this project and drive us into bonding. And they asked that the board, in its adoption of the the cooperative agreement, states something saying that we're not going to bond for this project to proceed. At that point, we received comments from the county, and the county said, we are not planning on spending money that fast on this project. I determined in council with our legal that the cooperative agreement that we already enter into with all agencies sets a limit of how much money we will give out. We think that the cooperative agreement as it is and its just template is strong enough for us to be able to manage our funds.
Jose Luis, this is what's in the current strategic plan though, right?
Yes, adopted 2024 by this policy board.
All right. Any questions for Jose Luis?
Dave, you were right. It was management finance that had the concerns, and that Dave Lehman said there's no way they'll be able to spend the money that fast, even the $8 million. So I'm going to trust him on it.
Any others? All right, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Any public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'm going to bring it back to the board, or excuse me. Any questions online? All right. All right. Bring it back for either more comments or a motion. Approved. I have a first. I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on, 7C, motion to approve by resolution 25-05, the submittal of project applications for funding under the StanCog fiscal year 2027-2030 Surface Transportation Block Grant, STBG, and Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality MAQ Improvement Program funding round. Jose Luis, you're back up.
Yes. I have been with this agency for 2 years, and I've given multiple presentations. Of all the presentations that I've given, this item has received the most discussion. So if the board would please humor, I'm probably going to give one of my longer presentations to make sure that I address the discussion the committees have had up to this date and to make sure this board has the information it needs to make appropriate action tonight. This item is asking the policy board to vote in support of 3 applications to StanCog's own funding program. Next slide. You know what? Before I actually go into these bullets, let's just back up. Let's go back to the landing slide. So it might be a little confusing. I'm going to be talking about StanCog with 2 different hats. So StanCog, we are an agency that does transportation planning, and we program transportation funds to implement our long-range plan. We are in the middle of a funding round right now where the board is programming $96 million of 2 types of funds, the acronyms mentioned earlier: Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Program, known as CMAQ, that's our kind of clean air fund, and Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, STBG, that's our super flexible road fund. 96 million is 3 times bigger than any funding round this policy board has ever done in its whole history. And that's because instead of giving out the standard 2 years, we're giving out 4 years, which should be doubling, but we're also giving out old carryover money that our board has unknowingly had sitting in the bank. We're programming that as well. Add it all up, it ends up being a triple funding round, about 6 years worth of funding. The other thing that's going on new with this board and this funding round is this is our 2nd time ever giving out funds on a purely competitive basis. No allotment by jurisdiction or for population or for lane miles. We're going for projects that perform well. And that is because our agency, along with all the other MPOs in California, were given notice that we cannot simply staple projects together and hand out money on a formula basis. We have to pick the projects that help us implement our long-range plan using performance measures to drive that. So this is a big deal funding round for this agency. When we approve it, we're going to rely on Convey. We're going to get the word out. $96 million is a big chunk of funding. The second hat, though, that we have is State Route 132 West. StanCog does not have a long history of building transportation projects. Like I said, we're a planning agency and we fund transportation projects. We're also building State Route 132 West. We have another project, you may have heard about it, Church Street. MPOs don't often build projects. We have cities and counties or Caltrans or transit operators. They build projects and we fund them and plan them. For various reasons, we are the lead on 2 phases of State Route 132 West, Dakota to Gates and the interchange. Now, this board has received numerous presentations and tours on this, so I'm not going to talk too much about State Route 132 West, but I do want to clarify those 2 hats because it can be confusing. StanCog is applying for StanCog's funding, and this is an item asking for support from StanCog to go pursue funding from StanCog. Next slide. So that funding round there's 90 million available of the 96. 6 million was programmed off the top for transportation control measures, rideshare, and administration. Because we have so much money, instead of giving out 1.2 million or 2 million here and there for a signal here and there or a sidewalk, we're able to do $5 million large applications. We set agencies a limit. You can apply for up to 3 large applications, no more. We also, now with our other hat, we have said as an MPO, as an agency, that State Route 132 West is our #1 priority in strategic plan. Even though sometimes we don't apply for LPP funds for it, it's our #1 priority. The LPP was sort of a interesting exception where we didn't need it and we weren't ready for it at the time. StanCog is an eligible agency in the guidelines approved by this board to go apply for these funds. State Route 132 West is shovel ready and it is high performing. I describe it as a varsity project. This project, it does everything. It's got safety, it's got congestion reduction, it's got neighborhood connections, it's got so much. Next slide. So sometimes this video plays with audio. I'm gonna cross my fingers and see if we can't get the audio. Not tonight. So while the visual is entertaining, and you can see the alligatoring of that asphalt right there. When I play this video to my friends, I'll play it to my friends in a bar. It is loud. The truck vibrating makes you want to just jump back. And if you've been on Mays Boulevard, that is the experience. Let's just play it one more time. That truck is going right past people's front yards. Yeah, that's someone's house. That's someone's driveway. Someone lives there. People walk. They go to church. This is what we're trying to fix with State Route 132. I can show you maps, but for me, this is the biggest visual. These trucks should not be here. We got to get them on a different alignment. That's what State Route 132 West is trying to do. Now, this particular stretch is in the city of Modesto, but State Route 132 crosses from Modesto and then into unincorporated Stanislaus County. Next slide. So we are asking for support for 3 applications. This list has changed since it went through TAC, and I think even since it went through the Management and Finance Committee. We're asking for $5 million, support for an application for Gates to Dakota for $5 million. That's the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. That's a large app. We're asking for $5 million for the interchange. That's the 99-132 interchange, $5 million STBG. That's also a large app, large application. And then we have found a portion of the interchange that we think we can do as a separate project, standalone. We're considering going after active transportation program funds for it. It is CMAQ eligible. We're taking Kansas Avenue, the overcrossing, right there at the interchange, and we're replacing that overcrossing with something wider. It's the same 2 lanes, but it will now have sidewalks on both sides, bike lanes on both sides. If you haven't been across Kansas Avenue, I think the next slide has more detail. This is, nope. This is, in case you aren't familiar with Gates of Dakota, this is more for the other committees. Gates of Dakota is the left-hand project. And the next slide, please. The interchange is that cross over on the right-hand side. Next slide, please. And Gates and Kansas overcrossing is just a little leg of that interchange. Next slide. So Kansas overcrossing, that red dot means that this is considered an intersection barrier in the city of Modesto's active transportation plan. It is considered a level 3 traffic stress corridor, meaning only the most bravest cyclists would bike across this. There's a very narrow sidewalk going right past really loud traffic there on the right-hand side. There's nothing on the left-hand side. There's nothing here for bicyclists. We are going to fix this as part of State Route 132. And adding new bike lanes where none are and adding another sidewalk is eligible for CMAQ. It reduces emissions from automobiles as people now will feel able to cross this without a car. Next slide. So I wanted to go a little, I said I was going to go into detail. Thank you for going through this ride with me. Sorry, it's a little bit of a slog. Gates of Dakota, like 7th Street Bridge, is fully funded. But that doesn't mean that your staff isn't done taking our foot off the gas pedal. We went out for TCEP, Trade Corridor Enhancement Program funds, with partnership from Caltrans. Thank you, Sylvia, and thank you, Grace. We were able to secure $67 million in a very competitive program from the California Transportation Commission. To go after that $67 million, you can't have 10 million of hopes and dreams to match it. You need 10 million of identified in your pocket funds. And so for that, we used Measure L. That Measure L funds, though, has been a placeholder. It is not our intention to spend Measure L on Gates of Dakota. We have an earmark request into Congressman Schiff for $5 million, and we have an earmark. We have plans for this application for SDBG, $5 million. If successful, we're able to put that 10 million on Gates of Dakota and free up 10 million of Measure L for, next slide, the interchange. This interchange is $256 million. When I talk to my friends in the programming world, they say, Jose Luis, how are you going to pay for that? And I say, that's why they hired me. And we've got a plan. And if I put it up here, it would overwhelm you. But just real fast, Trade Corridor Enhancement Program funds, Solution for Congested Corridor funds, local partnership competitive funds, local partnership formula funds, SHOP funds if Caltrans will help us, ITIP funds if Caltrans is going to play nice, active transportation program funds. Don't forget the CMAQ and don't forget the STBG. And I'm sure I'm leaving out some other funds, but we've got a plan. We're not pretending with this interchange. We're going to get this done. It might take us a couple tries, but we're working on it. Next slide. To go after, so visually, this is what it looks like. We're going to take the 10 million of LPP, of Measure L funds that's on Dakota Gates, and our hope is to move that to the interchange in Kansas overcrossing so that the remaining almost 15 million that we have of Measure L, we can use that for the big interchange work. Next slide. When you have that money, it allows you to do this. And I know these are tables and these can be hard on the eyes. So I'm going to walk you through it. The local/federal funding sources on the left, we have Measure L for the interchange. We got that 5 million, like it's there. If you have 5 million Measure L, that allows you to go leverage that local partnership program competitive funds that we were talking about, Scooty Brayton. We can go get 5 million of that. It's 1 for 1. You have to have at least 5 million if you want to get 5 million. The reason why the 7th Street Bridge could go get 15 million is it's a $100 million project. They have $80 million of highway bridge program funds. No problem leveraging 15 million. If we can get that 10 million transferred from Dakota to Gates, that lets us go after another 10 million of local partnership. If we can be successful at 5 million of STBG in this funding round, which I believe we can, if we can get, it's rounded to 2 million of CMAQ in this funding round, well, the total is 22 million of Measure L, STBG, and CMAQ funds on the interchange alone, which allows us to go after 22 million of local partnership competitive program funds. Now, you might be thinking, Jose Luis, this is too much inside baseball. I think your committees demanded this much inside baseball because of our request. Next slide. So we took this to committees, and I want to make sure I say this right off because it didn't make it into the staff report, and I want to apologize. The Management and Finance Committee, when they took their action, they deliberated this in detail. I think I might have been up here at the lectern for an hour. They ended up with a revised recommendation to the policy board, which was support for these 3 projects, these 3 applications, but not support for the process that led us to this point where StanCog is applying for its own funding program. So I took those comments plus the others we heard from TAC plus others from MFC, and I made this bulleted list of the concerns expressed by committees, and I'm going to go through them with the board's permission. The first is, hey, can we get that application deadline extended? No problem. I'm not in a rush to get these projects started for review. Your staff is a little overwhelmed these days, so we pushed this back to October 14th. And every agency's been pretty happy with that. The next was questions of a conflict of interest. StanCog programming its own money to its own projects. Well, this whole process is to avoid that conflict of interest. We're not coming in through the side door or the back door. We're coming in through the front door, announcing our intentions to apply for these funds through a purely competitive process. This is not a conflict of interest. This is how MPOs do it when MPOs are in charge of their own funding. I have 20 years of doing programming. The third concern was StanCog should not compete against member agencies. And this, I wanted just to talk about this. For me, it's standing here, it's an accident of history that StanCog is the lead agency. I don't feel like I am competing against our member agencies. I feel like I'm helping the city and the county deliver this mega project. And I don't know if the city or county wanted to do it, but if the city and county were to lead, they would be the ones competing against the member agencies. It just so happens at StanCog that we're the lead. And that is how you do a transparent and accountable process, is we bring a project and we say, is this worth funding? And it goes through a purely competitive process. So I understand the concern, and yet I feel like it's misplaced. This is not StanCog business we're doing. This is city, county, regional business. It's the #1 project in our region. There was a preference that regional projects be funded outside of competitive process, and I actually like this very much. I'm a bit of a nerd about this. The federal regulations don't say you have to run a competitive process. In fact, competitive processes can be wasteful. My kid does youth sports, and there's some sports where there's just so many cuts. See all these kids get all the gear, go out there, show up to tryouts, and then like half of them have to go home. And that's just a waste. Like, why would you even do that? Why don't you set a standard and we'll just make sure just those kids show up to tryouts? We don't need to do a competitive process. We can simply go through our whole regional transportation plan, our Measure L regional projects, and we can identify the projects that perform the best according to metrics that we care about, and then prioritize them. And we could have a 10-year capital improvement program, not too different from cities and counties, and their 5-year capital improvement program. And then like Caltrans does this too. They have a 10-year shop. They don't make their local agencies compete and then have a bunch of loser projects at the end. They submit their priorities, and then Caltrans uses data and metrics to elevate some priorities and lower others. But usually almost every project Caltrans wants to do, they're going to get started at some point, but it might not be tomorrow, it might be 10 years from now. No one in California does that. No MPO has tried doing a performance-based approach that's not competitive, but I would love to lead that effort. This is not that effort. I inherited this set of guidelines from others before me who are trying to accomplish the goals of the feds, which was to end our formula programming and switch us to performance-based, which looks like competitive. But I'm in favor of this. To go and redo our guidelines and redo everything would be a big delay to us implementing this $96 million package. Next question or concern was, hey, it would have been nice if StanCog would have told us about this earlier, and I would support a funding round that says, okay, if StanCog's going to apply, they must notify agencies this far in advance. I'll tell you this, we've been going through the list of projects, figuring out how our funding is. We didn't actually know how much we were going to apply for months in advance, but we could have if there was a requirement that said that we needed to. The other bullet was support for projects. Oh, I mentioned that. That was the Management Finance Committee's recommendation. And then really what this comes down to from your staff's analysis is our local agencies are looking at a $90 million pot, and they're looking at the State Route 132 project, and it's going to be a winning project. It performs very well. I believe they're concerned that that means 12 million less for everyone else. And yeah, when you have a limited pot, that's what it looks like. This pot doesn't have to be 90 million. It's an arbitrary amount. We're programming out 4 years. We could program out 6 years. I just picked what seemed like a reasonable fund estimate for our second time ever doing such a competitive funding round. And there's concern about phasing, and I want to talk about this. Phasing is sort of a jargony word. Large projects, or even projects that need to be done in a certain order, will get split into phases, into chunks. And that's normal. I imagine many jurisdictions here have taken some large project and split into pieces in order to deliver it better. There was no way in any world in California that we were going to build State Route 132 in one big piece. No one in California, no one in the feds is willing to pay like $750 million to do an interchange and bypass. But in pieces, split into pieces, yes, we can go after different funds and we can get this done. I know there's lots of frustration in the region that phase one is useless. No one can, it doesn't do anything for anyone, but it's just one wing of an airplane. We're not trying to fly a one-winged airplane. We're trying to fly a full airplane. We're trying to get the other wing, Gates of Dakota, trying to get the interchange. I guess that would be like the cockpit. And we're building this thing in pieces. There was some misunderstanding at the Management Finance Committee that our guidelines said that you could not break a project into phases and come in for funding. Next slide. I didn't have the guidelines in front of me at the Management Finance Committee, but if I did, I would have quoted this, and I'm going to read to you. I don't like reading to you. Projects may be broken into phases, and each phase must have a separate application up to the application limit. Applicants must discuss phase projects with StanCog staff prior to applying. Failure to discuss with StanCog staff prior to application deadline may result in disqualification. Our guidelines are in favor of phasing projects. We did want to be able to talk to applicants before they broke a project and split it up to make sure they're not gaming the system. Now, I will grant a problem here is how does StanCog discuss with StanCog that we're phasing a project? So an improvement to this guidelines would be to say, hey, anyone trying to break a project, split into phases, should bring it before the whole committee process for discussion. That's just a possible solution. Or maybe it just applies to StanCog staff. StanCog should bring it through committee for discussion. And that, you know, this is our second time doing this. This is actually our first time even having these rules in the guidelines. So I'm here to say our process is not perfect, but it was not our intent to break a project into phases to game a system. Our project, State Route 132, has been in phases. It's been split. Let's go back a slide. I'm going to make sure I hit all those bullets. That's it. Okay. Next slide. And the next after this. All right. Always got to plug the website, stateroute132west.com. If you go to that website, you will see that we are hosting open house. All of you are welcome. Many of you, I believe, will be there. It's scheduled for Thursday, October 2nd from 5:30 to 7:30. That's at the Mark Gallo Health and Fitness Center. And the staff report has links to it. If you click on it, it'll create a calendar item for you. Next slide. I think this is time for questions. There's that truck.
Jose Luis, a couple of quick questions. A, who's going to be scoring this? It's always been a concern about
Thank you.
that no one's advantage.
I thought I went through all my talking points and I missed that one. I'm sorry. We are trying to avoid bias in this funding round, same as last funding round. We have a scoring committee made up of the member agencies here, one member of StanCog, I believe also StanRTA, and for the first time, ACE, the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission. No scorer can score their own agency's project. They won't even review those applications. I'm sure they'll be familiar to them. And we even have them step out of the Zoom meeting when we're discussing it so that they're not having to hear us talk about their projects. While you're on the subject, I want to make sure I hit any other bullets I might have left off. I think that's it. Any other questions?
15 total people
Yes.
that you're pulled off, so there would be 12 people voting on your project at any given time. Right?
Yes.
StanRTA, ACE, and StanCog have a representative, one vote, 9 cities and the county.
I want to just confirm with the guidelines, but that sounds like the right number.
And then the other thing, you had said something earlier that caught my attention. You said on the scoring, or the way we make the scorecard, you talked about the metrics that we think are important. Is it what we think are important, or does CMAQ, do these things have strings attached of how you score, or what are levels of importance?
Both and. So I've only been at this agency 2 years, but our guidelines are 4 years old. They were just, maybe you might remember staff Melanie Ariola and Steve Vandenberg. They brought these, I think with the direction of Elizabeth Hahn, they brought these guidelines with an attempt to pick scoring methodology that advanced the goals of this region. So I believe everyone from this region helped decide the first round of competitive guidelines. For STBG, for each scoring criterion, there is what it looks like to be a successful roadway project, a successful transit project, and a successful bike ped project for each metric. Then for congestion mitigation air quality, yes, the feds want every project to have cost effectiveness as a scoring metric, but it doesn't have to be the only scoring metric. So 40% of 40 points out of 100 is, hey, how well does this clean up the air for the dollars you're spending? But there's also other scoring like project readiness, support, trying to remember other criteria. So but StanCog did not invent these metrics. These were done through multiple rounds of workshops.
That's what I wanted to point out, because you can advantage yourself by making the metrics, by making shovel readiness 90% of the points, because you have the only shovel-ready project. But it wasn't done that way. It's been done for the last 4 years.
Yes.
Same process. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Jose? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a few questions. I was a little dismayed when I read the staff report not to see the comments by the Management and Finance Committee actually included in there. So we had them before tonight. I know my city manager came to me with his concerns about this and the rest of the committee. And it was my understanding that it was a unanimous vote by the Management and Finance Committee, but yet that wasn't relayed to us in this staff report and basically until tonight. And I don't even know if it was ever actually said it was a unanimous vote. But I mean, their concerns, and I guess there's one of the members out there that's actually going to speak during the public comment, but I think their concerns were some of the fact that not only was that money not available to the cities and counties, and the fact that StanCog was basically running the process, which will then determine who gets the money, but then that money was being taken out of the other projects to simply try and leverage other monies, which meant that may not even get them, you know, you may not be competitive, but then they were taking monies out of the pocket of the other agencies, and there was a better or easier way to do that.
Several comments there. The first, I would actually really appreciate the direction of this board. If I could get a thumbs up, you would like to see ample discussion under the committee discussion section of the board packet. Traditionally, that section has been pretty brief. I saw one thumbs up. So
Do you take minutes at those meetings?
yes,
I would like that included in the packet. I mean, because it says here we have minutes from other stuff, but we don't have minutes from the Management and Finance.
Member Gokin, those minutes will be included at the next policy board meeting because we didn't have time to complete them.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't do me any good for voting tonight.
personally, I would love to write much longer staff reports to provide that level of detail. So I would say maybe you can understand, it can be a question at staff, how much detail is appropriate for the board. All the board has to do is give a little more direction of how much detail they would appreciate, and your staff can make that happen.
It's just under the advisory committee action. It says management finds expressed concerns about the competitiveness, but it really didn't really lay out what their concerns were or give any detail or talk about the thing. I mean, you know, I agree with their concerns. I mean, obviously I support this project and getting things done, but I agree. It seems almost like, you know, StanCog's trying to tip the scales in StanCog's favor.
Any other questions? Go ahead,
Yeah, I got a couple concerns that just following kind of his line. The extension to October 14th, I'm kind of concerned for that because there's 5 months already to get your packets in and get everything done. I know my city was prepared and got everything in, and now it's being extended, which potentially bumps us if somebody else gets theirs in now, they got more time. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because you put timelines on things for a reason. And now it's being bumped. I know the last go around, after applications got put in, the parameters of the application process got changed. And so things were changed and people were granted stuff, and small cities lost out on those grant opportunities. Small cities like mine and Newman lost out on grant opportunities, and I know some other smaller cities did because some of the parameters were changed in that. And I could get information on that if you'd like. My city manager has all that information. I just want to make sure this process is equitable for all the cities. And you coming to us tonight before it's even closed also seems like it's not, and we don't have all the information, just seems. Thank you for the presentation. You did a great job though, but to me, there's some issues here.
Maybe just almost in reverse order. Support for these applications ought to actually precede the deadline for the applications. I was the director. I do not recall us making any material changes to the guidelines in the last funding round after the policy board approved them. We did review, and I don't think this is your concern in this case, but we did review the emission benefit calculations for all the agencies. Some agencies had used, this might be very nerdy inside baseball, but they had used emission factors from tables that were outdated. And we brought in the new tables, and if it was needed, we did the calculation with them or for them. I can't remember, but I think some emissions went down, some might have improved, but that was an effort to try to get accurate calculations. Your staff cannot simply take someone's word for it that this is how much better a project is. We actually did the analysis and in some cases had to go change calculations with them. But I don't think that is the city of Newman's concern, specific issue. It broke my heart that Newman did not receive funding in the last funding round. It went onto what's called our contingency list. Anything that doesn't get funded in this funding round goes onto a contingency list. And the resolution and the action will say, if there's more funding, we will fund projects right down this list. I actually recommended unsuccessfully that we could keep going down that contingency list. As I said, the amount of funding we program is pretty much an arbitrary amount. It's not like we're really limited to that amount. And my recommendations did not make it through the chain of command. I feel like there's a third concern that I didn't. The extension, broad support at the TAC meeting. As I called other agencies that weren't at the TAC meeting, broad support, extended. Your staff is stretched thin. I couldn't review applications on September 19th as it is. And just a little bit of trivia, and maybe people don't like to hear this. STANCOG, the Regional Transportation Planning Agency for the region, we're a planning agency. We only have one planner on staff. And that planner doesn't work for me. He's not doing this funding round. So there was no reason for your staff to hold this deadline other than it would benefit agencies that were ready for this deadline. When they asked for more time, when they ask for more time, it's your own staff asking for more time, and I reached the conclusion that your own staff would be happy with more time, and they actually all gave thumbs up. October 14th seemed like a good date.
For clarification, did you say the 14th?
It's the 14th of October. It's a Tuesday. It's almost a month out, but not quite a month out.
I guess I'm confused, and I might just be missing what you're saying. I understand you're planning person to review the applications. There's just one of them. But the application deadline doesn't change his reviewing process. It changes when people have to turn in their assignments.
Yes, it changes when they have to turn.
And
Yes.
if they get them in on time, then they're in on time. If they don't, they're out.
Yes.
And now we're extending the deadline, which allows more opportunity, which I understand, but that takes away potentially from people that were prepared and did their jobs.
Yes, I would say there is some staff work now. Your member agencies are contacting me, asking questions about the guidelines, questions about the projects, and each of those questions takes time to respond. Allowing more time gives us more time to respond to those questions. Your comments are duly noted, yes.
Any other questions for Jose?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. I don't think this is a reflection on you at all, and so I think it's valid what you said, what you inherited, but also some of the confusion that's of behalf of the whole Management and Finance Committee. So I have two questions. Is it a norm that StanCog is going to be applying for these funds? Because typically we wouldn't get these presentations on behalf of projects. And then two, what is the timeline for an adjusted review process to include third parties or second committee when the phasing conversation happens, for example?
Let's do the phasing conversation. So you're asking, what would I propose we do differently for addressing the phasing conversation?
I don't expect you to have an answer tonight, but rather what's the timeline for when you're going to come back to talk through an adjusted process?
We will start developing the next funding round guidelines when StanCog gets some more staff, but sometime within the next 12 months, because we do these funding rounds about every 2 years. And it takes a little while of ramp up developing those guidelines before we can do a call for projects. But I can already tell you, just based on this feedback, that because it is sort of a gray area of whether an agency is splitting a project into phases to game a system, or because that's how they're going to deliver their project is in phases. I think we could just say, hey, this is the call for projects. This is enough time in advance before the deadline. Bring it back through committee. Maybe we just do the TAC. Maybe it could be the TAC and MFC. I'm not sure it needs the full policy board discussion. And we will talk with those agencies, the whole committee, and say, okay, so what are you trying to do? Yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down, whether or not we think that that's a valid way of splitting a project. That's the way I would propose it, but I don't actually write the guidelines. It's done through a collaborative process with the local agency. So sometime in the next, I would say 8 to 12 months is when you would see a change in guidelines that would call for that new process. Your first question, though.
Is it going to be a norm? That's StanCog.
That's a good question. Everything feels new to me. When we applied for Church Street, that blew my mind. I'm not used to an MPO ever applying for the Active Transportation Program. And that was interesting. State Route 132, it's your staff's job to go find funding for this project. And you're probably not done seeing this staff come before this agency looking for funds for this project. We will keep applying for every possible fund, which may include funds from this agency. I'll say this, our next funding round will not be 96 million. It'll probably be somewhere in the $30 million range. And I don't know that State Route 132 needs such small amounts of money to deliver it. It needs larger amounts. But that said, I don't want to preclude it. I just had a conversation with an agency saying, hey, there's a $30 million commitment that our agency is going to have to answer to. So I would say our agency, with its regional funds, needs to make those regional funds available for the regional priorities. And if State Route 132 continues to be a regional priority, it's probably going to keep coming after regional funds.
So as far as the phasing of projects, or you said that agencies are supposed to bring those to StanCog and discuss them ahead of time and everything else. I mean, it would seem to me a better process would be that let the agencies submit the projects however they deem appropriate. And if the scoring committee thinks they're trying to game the system, then they will score them poorly and they won't get any money per the guidelines and they'll stop doing it. I mean, if StanCog is applying for money in the same thing, I don't see how they can act as referee deciding what phasing is appropriate and what's not. If they're also applying for the money, I think the scoring committee should do that.
I think I agree with your assessment. I think if anything, StanCog wanted to be able to be there as a coach, to be able to say, hey, this might not fly, this would fly. And in fact, that's what we do is we have been talking to our member agencies, advising them. So for example, Stan RTA will be applying for buses. They need 6. Is that one application for 6 buses? Or is that 3 applications for 2 buses each? You know, by that rationale, they wouldn't talk to us at all and they would just come in cold and see what happens. But we actually recommend them to come talk to us because we think we have some good advice.
Any other questions? All right, I'm going to open it up to public comment. You guys can just get in line if you want, kind of, might be easier.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Luis. So it's my understanding that
If you could pull that mic towards you a little bit.
sounds good. We'll do that. So my understanding is the SR 132 Dakota to Gates is fully funded without any phasing, but you're trying to apply for additional $10 million for Dakota to Gates, use it towards the interchange project, which is not fully funded, and somehow Grace or Caltrans will cover the $246 million. Could that jeopardize the Dakota to Gates, which are already funded right now?
Yes,
My name is Omar Afifi. Sorry about that.
thank you, Omar.
Thank you, Mr. Fifi. Yes, Dakota Gates, the way we apply for funding to the CTC is we told them it's fully funded. Realistically, we have only 15 million of of Measure L funds to do Dakota Gates and the interchange. And our plan has been to use 5 million of funding from StanCog and 5 million of funds from congressional earmark. To say that plan when we go to the CTC is not an acceptable strategy for pursuing competitive funding. And also, it doesn't make a very good soundbite when we tell the public that we're going to be doing Dakota to Gates and that we have all the money necessary. But like I said, your staff is not done pursuing funding once we get funding from the CTC. Securing funding for Dakota to Gates and then using funding for the interchange does not jeopardize Dakota to Gates. Dakota to Gates is not jeopardized today or tomorrow. There's no action by this policy board that's going to jeopardize Dakota to Gates. We're going to build it.
Kevin McClarty, District 3. So you mentioned the ACE train.
Kevin, if you could just direct it to
Okay.
the chair, then we'll have Jose.
Okay. He mentioned the ACE train, and I'm wondering how that ties in with this. And I'm also wondering if they have done a traffic flow projection of what they expect the traffic flow to be after the completion of the ACE train as compared to what it is now. Is it going to reduce the traffic flow at all on 132, or is it going to be the same? Is it going to make any negligible difference at all? And if it is going to make a negligible difference, would it be wiser to finish the ACE train project first and then see how that's going? And then you would know what needs to be done in terms of 132. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, but I mean, I haven't been briefed on this. I'm not, I haven't been following this for any length of time or anything, so I'm very uninformed on it. But I mean, this is just off the top of my head. It seems like we start these projects and then they're almost completed, and then we start something else, and then the other project is left hanging, and it just seems like we're all over the place. And let's see here if I wanted to know, is there going to be a carpool lane on the new 132? And see. So I guess that's basically it. I want to know about the traffic flow. I want to know about the projected traffic flow and what we anticipate on down the line. And I know you said that or he said that he doesn't know when the eighth train is expected to come to fruition. And is that producing any kind of a damper on this project at all, or where does that leave us, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If I'm not mistaken, the eighth train was originally was supposed to have started in 2020, and then it was 2022, and then it was 2024. And then they finally said, we don't know when it's going to start. They stopped projecting dates, and they said, we have no idea. Am I correct on that, or am I off base? And I know it's not the city's fault. I know it has to do with Union Pacific and the fact that there are some things underneath the tracks that belong to them that they don't want a commuter train going on their tracks because of whatever it is they have under the tracks. And there's a stalemate going on right now as to what to be done about that. But is there any hope of it ever coming to fruition? And how does it tie in with this project? So that's basically what I'd like to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. Jose Luis, do you want to?
I know we have a member of the San Joaquin Joint Power Authority here. Could also speak to it, but I did 6 months at the Rail Commission, and also I know a little bit about ACE, so I can talk about it. Several points, and I'm hopefully going to see if I can address them all. Let's just do traffic flow first. To do a project like this, traffic flow must be modeled. We know what the trucks are out there, that the trucks are out there right now, and we can make projections of how many trucks will be running on the new facility. And this has been a point because we're not building a 4-lane facility. We're just building 2 lanes. We've bought enough land, and we've put enough pavement out there so that it can be 4 lanes real in a jiffy. But we actually believe we can do a 2-lane expressway, and that'll be fine through 2040 for the traffic flows. Now, these traffic flows, they're going east to west. State Route 132 is Stancog's belt. But ACE is longitudinal. It's going north to south. It eventually makes it to the Bay Area the other way. So it's also got an east to west movement. They're different. There's some of the same people are going to be using State 132 that would use ACE, but these trucks won't ride passenger rail. The commuters might once that service is in place. This has been in the works longer than ACE has been in the works. Our region has known since the day the state said, hey, you know, this neighborhood road, let's make that a state highway. We've all known that this is not where a state highway can go. If you ever drive down Highway 99 or stretches of state highway, you'll look on the side and you'll see a frontage road with small, like little power lines that look like they're like kitty sized. That's the old highway. But then when California got serious about building highways, it would move off of that alignment onto new, straighter, more direct alignment. That was supposed to happen with State Route 132, and then the budget broke in the 70s and they couldn't do it. We are making good on that promise to get these trucks and regional traffic off of this pretty much neighborhood facility onto an interregional facility. Now, I said a long time, Union Pacific has been here longer than many Californian cities. The reason California exists is because of the railroad. Railroad is what is responsible for all the cities along it. The railroad is a federal government sanctioned monopoly. They own that railroad, they get to run it for their business. But as a government sanctioned monopoly, they have to play nice. If they can fit passenger rail on there, they have to let the passenger rail use it. But what does play nice mean when you're a monopoly? For Union Pacific, they've said, all right, if you build all these things that we want, we'll let you run your passenger rail on it. And so that is what the Rail Commission and San Joaquin Joint Power Authority are doing. They're building sidings, they're building built-up stations, and the Union Pacific keeps changing their standards, saying, no, longer sidings, longer double tracking, bigger, better stations. And they get to say whatever they want. They're a monopoly, and there's no other railroad that the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission can use. They have to play nice. Any project in California that bumps up against a railroad immediately experiences a 2 to 4 year delay in getting it done. Union Pacific doesn't feel the need to have a bunch of staff there dealing with government projects. They're in the business of moving freight. They only do passengers out of like charity to the government. So unfortunately, the Rail Commission, every single project they're doing is 100% within the Union Pacific right of way. It's like going to your landlord and asking if you can hang up a painting, and he says, "I'll get back to you in 5 years." And that's kind of what it's like. So every estimate the Rail Commission gives for when they can get it done has a giant asterisk that says, "But you should check with Union Pacific for better dates." And so I have a lot of compassion for their dates and deadlines. Their delivery of their project is not really connected to this. The funding they're using to build it, it's a different pot of funding. We can't use their money for this, and they can't use our money for that. With some exceptions, I do expect the Rail Commission to come and ask us for CMAQ at some point to operate this rail service. And they may come in this funding round. One other thing, though, once this thing is operating, when we got the whole State Route 132 built the way we need it, transit service is going to improve. There's going to be better transit, more often transit, and people who ride those buses, some of them will take them to ACE, and they will hop on those trains, and they will go north. We need an excellent transportation system for all users, for motorists, for trucks, walkers, bikers. People are going to ride ACE, people are going to ride transit. You don't build one at a time, you do them all, and you see which one gets done first.
Any other public comment? Come on up.
Good evening, Chair Condit, members of the Policy Board. Toby Wells, Director of Engineering Services for the City of Modesto and the City Engineer. A couple comments. I'll address my comments from the perspective of the Technical Advisory Committee. So the TAC is a Brown Act committee, but it is made up of all of your cities, city engineers, and we saw this. Our group was who worked with Jose Luis on creating those guidelines that are being referred to this evening. The first time we heard that StanCog was going to be applying for these 3 grants was on September 2nd. So quite a surprise to, for sure, our agency. And as I talked to other members, it's $15 million because the first proposal was not a $2 million CMAQ. It was actually a $5 million CMAQ. So StanCog's proposal, 2 weeks before the applications are due, is $15 million. In essence, we all know we're smart enough to figure out it's off the top, right? We all recognize and we're all supportive of State Route 132 as the highest priority project. So that is part of the overall problem. So I'll kind of hit on 4 points, primarily around transparency. StanCog is an agency, as we all know, that is struggling with rebuilding the trust of this community, as well as the agencies that they support. And this process is another step in the wrong direction. So from the transparency, first point's already been made this evening about the agenda report. Technical Advisory Committee spent 45 minutes talking about this. Management Finance spent over an hour talking about this, and the agenda report had 1 sentence of both of those. To me, that's disrespectful to both of those bodies who've spent a significant amount of time putting their time and effort in. So that's the first piece. Transparency on the process. If StanCog is going to be applying for projects that compete with the other agencies, they should be saying that upfront. Before the cities spend time putting applications together, going through all the work that it takes to do that, we should know that StanCog is going to be a part of that process. And as Jose Luis mentioned, it would be better for that to come off the top and program regional projects separately. The big difference here is those regional projects have the ability to go after funding that the local agencies don't. STBG funds are one of the most flexible funds that we have access to. The funding sources, and I know Jose didn't show the bigger matrix of all the funding source that they'll be pursuing for the 132 interchange project, but those are funding sources that don't apply to the projects that we're trying to deliver. So that's the piece of it. And then again, overall process for putting the agencies in a very difficult position. And this is what the Management and Finance really wrestled with, of how to still maintain their support for the region's highest priority project, but at the expense of their own projects. That just a built-in conflict that makes it difficult. And the last point I'll make is about the overall 132 project. So the city of Modesto stepped up and delivered the 132 project. As many of the room remember, Stancog was the lead agency on 132 and was not going to meet critical deadlines and was going to lose $40 million in TSEP funds, same funds we talked about this evening. City of Modesto stepped up and delivered the project. It's a great project, but is now wrought with plenty of challenges. The video that truck is that was shot in, I was standing there with Caltrans representatives and Stancog representatives talking about the condition of Mays Boulevard because Caltrans wants us to take that roadway in the existing condition. As you can see, that roadway is not in a state of good repair. There's a significant investment that is necessary for that roadway to be in a position that the city would be willing to take it. This is a point of contention currently ongoing that will need support of Caltrans, Stancog for funding to make sure that that is addressed. So all of this comes back to this process, the transparency associated with it. The simplest solution here that I would recommend is for these applications to remove the $5 million for the Dakota to Gates, because let's face it, at the end of the day, it's not $5 million for Dakota to Gates. You're just putting $10 million on the interchange. That's just cut to the chase. That's what's happening. So take the $5 million out of Dakota to Gates. That's fairest for all the agencies. Make those two applications. And I think most agencies can live with that change and recognize we need to change it in the future so that there's clear transparency and Stancog can start to rebuild the trust that has been broken with these agencies. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Doug Dunford, City Manager, City of Ceres. I agree with my learned colleague here from Modesto. It was the MFC, which I'm a part of. We did wrestle with this for about an hour, a little over. Some of the problems we saw was what he was saying. We're supporting the major project like for this board, but we're also fighting against ourselves because we're taking money away from us. What we're concerned about is the STPG. That's low hanging fruit. It's easy to get to. It's a lot easier than CMAQ, and we're looking at two of those $5 million projects are STPG, which leaves only 3 others for the rest of the cities, all the other 9 cities to fight for. The problem is, I know of at least 7 major projects that different cities have going on right now that would like to go after that money, but we can't because now it's only 2 available STPG fundings. The CMAQ, as Jose Luis was pointing out, if ACE Train's coming after that, that's going to take a considerable amount of CMAQ money away from the cities. And so we're concerned about that. The other thing that we argued about or pointed out was the change in what we call policy. And what he showed you tonight didn't exist during our meeting about phasing projects in. And so a couple of years ago, Stancog lambasted the city of Turlock for phasing in a project. And so at that point forward, it was an unwritten rule. We were not going to phase projects in. You have to come in and do it properly. The first time we heard about this phasing was when the staff report came out and everybody saw it. And we heard about, from the TAC, and everything was going sideways. The concerning part also was the Stancog had to ask Stancog for permission. And when we, questioned Jose Luis, basically it's like, well, who did you ask? Himself. He got permission from himself to do the phasing in to move forward. And so that's some of the concerns the MFC meeting was. And I also want to point out, you're very correct. We were very adamant about what we wanted to do and be, put in stone as far as the staff report. It didn't make it, but that seems to be kind of the consistent being of Stancog right now. We've been trying to get information from Stancog. They don't want to put it in. They want to keep the board in a vacuum. And so this is an example of that. Another example is when these other 2 individuals got up to talk, you guys did fine. When Mr. Wells got up to talk, the timer started. And it's like, well, why'd the timer start on Toby and nobody else? And it started at 3 minutes instead of 5 minutes, which is on your packet for 5 minutes. And so they're going to cut him off at 3 minutes because they might talk too long. Well, the timer's off now. But that's Stancog. And that's what the MFC and the TAC are facing every meeting. Because you guys are giving information what they want you to know, not what they're feeding us, and they're not feeding us anything. So, thank you.
Mr. Dunford, that was done at my direction because I knew that they didn't start it with those two, and I just said, are you timing?
Mhm.
I would have allowed you to speak as long as you needed to speak anyway.
I wish it
It's
had
just,
been 5
it's
minutes.
just part.
I understand.
Any other public comment? Anything online? No. All right, I'll bring it back to the board for more comments or a motion.
I don't think we're at a motion yet. But so Toby had said something about splitting the money up for regional projects, which I think is a good idea. I listened to management and finance. I don't know if anyone else did. And it was pretty heated, and I always come up with that bad word when I talk about, how the meeting was going. It just was a little chaotic. So again, I can't speak to the transparency issue, like the flow of information. I just happened to get on because I wanted to listen to it. One component about Jose Luis had brought up about competing for the money. I don't see it as competing against projects because everyone is going to put in for projects. It's what it is should be limited. I think is what you're asking for is limited. And I think if next time we break out the money and we say there's only 10 million for regional projects or 15 million or whatever of the percentage, I think that should come to the board if we want to do that. But not competing for it at Stancog just means that when Modesto did 132, we'll just put a city or a county in charge as the lead agency, and they're going to come and they're going to compete for the money. And now it happens to be Stancog. So if Stancog can't vote on their own project, it's only going to win based on how valuable it is on the metrics. I'm not questioning, because again, I don't know the metrics that Jose Luis talked about, but I think we should be able to compete. I don't think they should compete for all the money. I don't think they should ask for a disproportionate share because the money needs to flow around. Going back to Turlock, when Turlock got the money, I'm not sure, Erica, you probably weren't on the board, but they found what maybe was a loophole, maybe wasn't a loophole, but they got 3 portions of money for Gear Road repaving. And it was a surprise to me, but the first thing I did was text my public works director and ask him why he didn't see the same loophole that Turlock did, because they were just a little savvier in the situation. I didn't think the board had talked about it. There was concern. I don't think that we did anything. I don't think we took any action as a board to change that. I don't know if anyone remembers that differently. So why do they have to go? Jose Luis, I want you to answer the question because I still haven't heard the proper answer of why they need to come to you to ask to phase, or why they have to come to Stancog.
If we could go back 3 slides to the quoted rules. Thank you. So these rules went to this policy board and to every committee in April 2025. They're in the guidelines. I did not type this for the first time. At the Management Finance Committee, it was brought up as if this wasn't the rule, and I did not have the guidelines to be able to refute it at that meeting. But this is what it says. Projects may be broken into phases, and each phase must have a separate application.
So
Yep.
I know this is
Okay.
the language.
So-
why is that? What precipitated this, I guess?
So many projects have to be broken in phases. So we would never outlaw breaking a project into phases. That's, you can't eat an elephant other than one bite at a time. Like that's how elephants get eaten. That's how projects get built. But the Turlock example was, yeah, I chuckled at it. I was like, oh, that's a loophole. There's nothing in our guidelines that say if you're doing, I think it was like a $3 million road rehab project, and the most you can ask for is 1 million for an application. Break it up, 1 million here, 1 million here, 1 million here, 3 applications. It was a really good project. It was in terrible shape. It got funded. That I did not lambast anyone for that. I don't know who from our staff lambasted anyone for that. I do know some of our local agencies were quite unhappy with that. We did not outlaw it, but we did want a chance to talk to our applicants prior to them applying. And so it just says they have to discuss. Staff doesn't actually even approve it. Like, we can't tell someone to not apply for something. We just wanted a chance to discuss it. That's all this is. And that was that.
How are they supposed to know how they're going to be scored
Mhm.
if it's not in a written form that they can actually see? They're going to come to you because that's what gives them the illusion that you have some ability to give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
So we can coach them, but again, it's going to be scored by a scoring committee. As Member Gokin said earlier, that scoring committee is going to be the one that's going to decide how many points a project gets. And they're going to be the ones looking at the guidelines and interpreting it, and they have to make the subjective call on every project application.
I mean, I'd like to see these rules for phasing come back to us. I don't have a problem with the first sentence, but I mean, applicants must discuss is like a shall. I mean, something like applicants are encouraged to discuss and then remove the entire failure part, because that should be up to the scoring committee. If they think someone's trying to game the system, then they score them, poorly, and they don't get the money. I mean, I don't think, especially if Stancog is applying for money, that they should be able to then referee the process or decide who gets to submit what in that project. But I just think that, and I think that's where some of the distrust is coming from. And, I had discussions with Rosa when she was still here about things not coming to the Management and Finance Committee, and she was very defensive about it, and I felt a lot of that was coming from her. And I don't know if that's now become a, agency kind of way of doing things, but I would definitely like to see that change, because not only is it important for transparency, but a lot of these people, like Mr. Wells, I met him and known him for a long time, not personally, just professionally, but I know he has a lot of experience and a lot more knowledge in a lot of these areas than I do. And if these things aren't coming before the Management, Finance, and the TAC, then they're not able to properly educate or explain things to some of their electeds, because some people have term limits here and they're not going to be around forever. I know, the longer term members of this board, Vito, and a lot of them, they've been on here 10, 12, 14 years, and it takes a long time to learn a lot of this. And you can't be expected to step in. I know the first time I got on this board, I couldn't even remember the acronyms, much less all the other stuff. So I would really like to see some of that change, and I think it's an important step towards not only getting things done, but getting things done and making sure that, there's no finger pointing, that there's trust among everyone.
Any other comment? And more, I'd like to hear. Go ahead, Rosa.
Thank you. As motivated, Jose Luis, as you are, and as diligently as you presented the details on this proposal, it's complicated and it's high risk, and there's a lot at stake. Many members of the Policy Council and the public have raised concerns in regards to the process, and I feel that there is an opportunity to improve this process and get it done to the point where unanimously there's satisfaction with it and trust in the process. And I don't think we're there now. And it's for that reason that I likely will not be supporting it. Thank you.
Could somebody give me an example of how they would game the system? I've heard that used a couple different times. How would you game the system? By breaking up in phases.
I mean, that is the job of your staff, is when we are adopting or developing guidelines, to find out how would you break it. One of the ways you could break it is, okay, if we're only limited to 3 applications per agency, you might look at some of your applications that are close to the border with another agency and say, hey, adjoining city, how about you take the lead on this project, and we'll call it your project, and that'll allow us to go over the max limit. That's how an agency might game an interregional project. You could, in theory, you could hand a project to Stancog and say, hey, Stancog, you're a separate agency. Build this project in the city of Ceres or build this project in our jurisdiction, and you'll be able to help us exceed our max limit. Essentially, you would take any of those limits and try to figure out how you could wiggle around it. And this is why we do have, I guess you could say, a democratic scoring committee made up of our own member agencies. They're going to score these projects and these applications using the guidelines, and they're going to deliberate and score them. And that's supposed to be a check on gaming it, but this is our second time doing a competitive process as this region. Up until now, it's just been handing it out on a formula basis. I didn't expect we were going to get this perfect, and I still believe this is going to be a beautiful funding round. We're going to have some great projects.
Okay. Any more comments? Go ahead, Mayor.
I'll just make a brief comment that I'm still trying to understand all of this and what it means. And is there any way going forward, and I'm not even sure who to look for that direction, so that it is a more agreeable solution? And the concern I have is that I don't want us to overcomplicate something where then we end up losing funding. Is there any risk?
So State Route 132, Dakota to Gates, is going to get delivered. We really don't want to have to use Measure L to match the TCEP funds on that. If we're not funded through Stancog, I'm going to keep trying to find other ways to come up with that 10 million. And there's not a lot of ways, but this is super inside baseball. I told you guys I'd be up here. I can go ask for another earmark the next year and see if I can get another 5 million for it. Congressman Schiff, Congressman Gray, or whoever would be the congressperson in the future, they might say, hey, didn't we just give you 5 million last year? And we'd say, yes, we want another 5 million. And then they could say, didn't you already start construction? We'd say, yes, your staff knows a way to start construction and still make our project eligible for future federal funding. I have lots of tools in my belt for going after transportation funding. I am committed to getting Dakota to Gates built, and I'm committed to getting this interchange funded. It's going to be a slog. 256 million when we only have 15 million left of Measure L is tough. I actually wonder if I remember, are we jeopardizing? If you don't, let's say this policy board doesn't support any of the applications for funding, we will have missed out on an opportunity to get 12 million of funding that's eligible for this sort of work. We'll be in an awkward position of pursuing local partnership program funding with only about 5 million of Measure L left for the interchange. We might be able to pretend that we have other funds, but if we fail to secure those other funds in time, then yeah, we could walk away. We'd have to give back the local partnership. Yes, there are opportunities for failure up ahead. I'm not even saying that voting for this guarantees there won't be any failure up ahead. We could find ourselves in a situation where we have half the money in our hands and can't get the other half in time to make our deadlines. We could have to give some of that money back. It's a slog ahead to deliver the interchange, and I'm not sugarcoating it, but we're committed to doing it.
So what are the consequences of voting no?
So if you vote no, then Stancog will not apply for these funds. We will not be on even the contingency list for these funds. There's no opportunity for Stancog to get CMAQ or SUG funding for State Route 132 in this round. Future rounds will not have this sort of money either. We won't have, so this is a once in our history time when there's $90 million. Not getting 15 million might not seem like a big deal, but that means we can't use 15 million to leverage local partnership program funds. We might try to find other funds to do it. I guess I'm trying to say is there are risks, but I'm not sure I can give you concrete consequences.
Thank you.
Eric, you were reaching for your mic.
Yeah, I just very much appreciate everybody's conversation around this, and there's obviously room for improvement, maybe in the process and in the communication throughout this whole thing. But I just don't think it makes sense to cut off our nose to spite our face here and to vote this down, just my opinion. But like I said, I do very much appreciate the conversation and the suggestions here. we keep talking about Stancog in the third person here. You know, Stancog is us, you know, and so, and that's how we will make that decision here tonight, is us as the representatives here, if we want to vote for that or not. I know we have staff on the Management and Finance Committee, but ultimately it's us who decide this, and staff works for us. And so, so Stancog is not this agency, this big boogeyman. It's all us, and we got to figure it out ourselves here. And we will here in a few minutes on this one. So, anyway, for what it's worth.
Any other comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a first,
I will second that.
I have a second. Go through a roll call vote, please.
Member Chiesa,
Aye.
Member Graywall,
Aye.
Chair Buck Condit,
Aye.
Member Withrow,
Aye.
Member Swallen,
Aye.
Vice Chair Carr,
Aye.
Member Escutia Brayton,
No.
Member Wright,
Aye.
Member Graham,
No.
Member Gilbert. No. Member Hernandez,
Abstain.
Member Phillips,
Aye.
Member Gokin,
No.
Chair, you have 3 noes, 1 abstain, and the rest are yes. I believe it passes.
All right, thank you. Motion passes. All right, moving on to D, motion to adopt by resolution 25-06, an amendment to the Employees Policies and Procedure Handbook. Monica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Policy Board. I'll be presenting this item this evening. This item is a motion to adopt by resolution an amendment to the Employee Policies and Procedures Handbook, and I'll just refer to it simply as the Employee Handbook or the Handbook. Next slide, please. So the Employee Handbook is provided to all Stancog employees, and it's designed just to be a working guide for employees and supervisors and describes the Stancog personnel policies, practices, and employment guidelines. This Employee Handbook is updated annually by outside legal counsel to reflect changes in employment, laws, and revisions to policies and procedures. Next slide, please. The proposed amendment does 3 things, and this proposed amendment was prepared by outside legal counsel. The first item the amendment does is it confirms the 2021 rate of vacation accrual, and I'll discuss that in just a moment. The second thing is it clarifies compensation for out-of-class assignments. And the third is it adds a new Article 14, clearly establishing the procedure for future amendments to the handbook. Next slide, please. Regarding the vacation accrual, the Employee Handbook was last presented to the Policy Board for adoption in November of 2021. After that adoption, a new rate of vacation accrual was implemented, but not approved by the Policy Board. This proposed amendment confirms the rate of vacation accrual that was adopted in 2021. If adopted, the vacation accrual rates would go into effect on October 4th, 2025, and that's so it coincides with employee pay periods and allows us to give the employees at least 7 days notice that these rates will be changing. Next slide, please. So on the screen is the table that shows the differences. On the left, you'll see the 2021 rate of accrual. On the right, you'll see the 2025 rate of accrual. What the handbook does is it takes that 2021 rate of accrual and inserts it into the text of the employee handbook, and that would be the rate of vacation accrual as of October 4th. Next slide, please. The second thing that the amendment does, it addresses out-of-class assignments. The proposed amendment clarifies how those out-of-class assignment and compensation associated with that work is determined. The executive director will make this determination for employees of Stancog, and the policy board will make this determination for assignments that are hired and fired by or report directly to the policy board. Really, the clarification identifies that if there are proportionate or a small number of duties that are being assigned to the higher paid position, the increase would be proportionate to the newly assigned duties. So it eliminates any confusion amongst the employees who may be under the belief that they would move fully into the higher rate of compensation. Also, out-of-class assignments are supposed to be temporary so that we can recruit individuals for any vacant positions that we have. Next slide, please. And then the last item is the amendment process. A new Article 14 has been proposed. It's at the end of the handbook, and it states that any proposed amendments are to be prepared in writing by the executive director or designee, and that all of those amendments will be presented to the policy board for approval. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Questions for Monica? Charles?
Yeah, I have three concerns about this policy. The first one is in page 5, 2.1.19, where it talks about employees assigned to perform tasks, characteristics of a higher classification out of class will receive a corresponding increase in pay as determined by the executive director. Given the problems we just had with our executive director, I would like to see that after she approves it or authorizes it, that it has to come to us for approval. You can't just be, she approves it and then we don't know about it. So, I mean, I would like to see that come before us. I would like to see that language changed. I don't know if you want to talk about that first. Do you want me to go on to my other two or?
So we are working with outside legal counsel for all of the proposed amendments and revisions to employee policies that have been recommended as part of the grand jury report, and I can present that to them. One potential concern is that for employees that do not report to the policy board, but we can identify, perhaps a clarification regarding if we do have employees who are working out of class, or are you seeking specifically the proportionate rate or increase to that employee who's working out of class?
No, I'm just saying that when the executive director does that, it should have to come to us for approval. So we make sure, because we had the issues with the gift cards, the other things, and there was no oversight for that, whereas now the executive director can just arbitrarily determine someone's working out of class, and there's no oversight or approval by that from this board.
I'm not sure because I like that. They could report out, right? But you have to check with legal counsel to make sure that we can, because we set salary bands. And as long as they're within the salary band, you're saying that we can't approve or we might not be able to approve.
Well, there's some concern about, one of the reasons that an agency has the executive director is so that the day-to-day operations are delegated to that individual, and that would fall within their purview, and that's why it's been separated out so that there are clear distinctions between which individual or body has responsibility for certain things. If this is a concern, we could bring this back. I would still ask, though, that there would be consideration for at least the vacation accrual portion if there are concerns with other members of the policy board regarding that change. I will identify, though, with the exception of the executive director carve out and the policy board carve out, this provision does come, we borrowed it from the county's manual.
Right. Well, if we're going to go into vacation, that was my second concern. So, okay,
ahead.
so it says here for Stancog that they would 6 to 11 years, 6.16 hours, 12 plus years, 7.7 hours. If you look at Stanislaus County's approval, it doesn't go up to 6.6 hours till after 11 years, and it doesn't go up to 7.7 till after year 21. If you look at City of Modesto, same thing, it does in 21 years. So, but Stancog employees are going to be reaching maximum vacation in 12, yet in Stanislaus and Modesto, it takes them 21 years. I think that's quite a disparity, and I think we're basically competing against our own people, and why would Stancog have a lot quicker vacation accrual than any other city or the county in our county? I just took the two biggest ones. I know mine's similar to theirs, and I'm sure most of the other cities are too.
So these rates that are contained here, this was previously presented and approved by the board in 2021. So at some point there was a board approval of these rates and a resolution, corresponding resolution to go along with that. And so that's why we're reverting back to that.
Yeah, I wasn't on the board then, so I didn't approve it, but I'm bringing it up now because I think it's a concern. And then my third concern is the sick leave cash out or thing like on page 16, 3.3.62, if somebody leaves voluntarily, we're going to pay them out of their sick time. I don't know why we do that. I mean, and then it talks about 100% being eligible for cash out provisions. But if you look at the county upon retirement, they've only get 75%. So I think that's out of whack with what a lot of the other agencies and is what the industry standard. And then I don't know why we're being way more generous to Stancog than we are to the other public agencies in the county. So I have concerns with all of those.
I just asked if we had the pre-2021 rates, accumulation rates.
I'd have to go back and pull that
Yeah.
from them.
Any other comments or questions for Monica?
Is there, is the outside counsel available to address the concerns?
We didn't have them on standby this evening, so if it's the desire of the board, we can work with them and identify these comments, and we can bring back the item at a subsequent meeting.
Thank you.
And perhaps, Monica, in addition to that, I'm wondering if comparables, as opposed to just going back to what you indicated were approved by the Policy Council in 2021, to Member Golkin's point, we have an opportunity to bring it up to date to where we feel is appropriate and correct today. So I'm wondering if we can get comparables of these annual rates and see if what is being proposed is consistent with others. And if not, maybe we could have that conversation.
Well, at some point, a classification and compensation study will need to be performed for the organization, and this would be examined as part of that. Perhaps it would make sense to do that as a whole, comprehensively. We were bringing the vacation accrual back to the policy board because that was one of the specific items contained in the grand jury report. We were attempting to be responsive and revert back to the 2021 approval that was previously provided by the policy board.
I hear what you're saying, and that makes sense, but perhaps we could be equally responsive by saying we'll go back and not just insert something that appears to be a good fit at the moment, but go back and do, as you indicated, that analysis and get it done right. And it'll take a little bit longer, but perhaps we could talk about that. Thank you.
So at this point, we talked about it during executive committee. The accrual is the unapproved rates. So if we don't make movement tonight, we're looking at the rates that were the 9 weeks and the whole reason why we're here.
Is there anybody still over 12 years here?
No.
Nobody's over 12 years here anymore, then the rates don't
The,
affect.
the issue, they compress though. They compress if you pull that frame back up. It's not,
The accrual,
yeah, the accrual
the 6
times.
to 11 to 6 to 8, 9 to 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, the time frame.
3 years. So there are people, I don't know if there are. I think as a precautionary move, I would suggest we adopt these, then we can take the next step, because this is what the board approved. This is the only thing they approved. And by default, we should almost be back here already, but we have to take an action. So I think we can still do the study, but this reverts us back to what, and I would guess that most of us were on this board, not most of us, but quite a few of us were on the board that approved it.
I would like to, if, I agree with all the comparables. Policy board back, and I like what you did with county, city, and so on. But if we're gonna do comparables to try and equate all the figures, then I would also want a comparable on staff size. It's my understanding that the Stancog staff is very limited. We have a very short staff. And if we start manipulating too much, then we may lose the entire staff. They'll go other places in order to be comparable or to be compensated the way they feel they should be. So I'm just concerned with the limited staff that we don't lose the qualified, educated personnel that we have that is running the organization today.
Right, Charles.
Well, I mean, so we're saying we're limited staff, but then we're saying we should give them more vacation so they won't be here? Isn't that the opposite of the argument? But, and this isn't an attack on staff. I mean, our staff does a good job, and, you know, even my comments with Jose Luis, I think he does an excellent job. And that's not the point here. The point is how can we give agency of 15 people more than we're giving our own cities and counties, and basically competing against them? And it's nothing personal. It's just that what's fair is fair. And so, you know, and I think a lot of the high staff turnover goes back to the grand jury report about the work environment that was here, and that was used as a facade to, oh, we got to do all this stuff to keep people because they're leaving. Well, maybe that wasn't why they were leaving. Anyway, I'm still against it.
Any other comments? Questions from Monica? All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up public comment. Carolyn, you have a card?
So for full disclosure, I was on the civil grand jury for 24-25. One of the things that I noticed on this is that you said that this policy was dated 1/1/25, but the withholding, according to the former CPAs, was recorded as early as 6/30/2023, according to the report, page 89. A lot of you have made really good points, and they sort of touch on a lot of different things that I've seen. One thing you have to learn about transportation planning is transportation planning is like the difference between a doctor and a dentist. A dentist can do what a doctor does, but not every doctor can do what a dentist does. Transportation planners are in short supply. They're hard to get, and there's a lot of, it's sort of the employees market right now for them. So bringing them in, attracting them, and holding them is important. Should you take it down from 9 weeks to 5? Yes. And that's a good start. Should there be more? Absolutely. But part of that is going to come with untangling everything that has happened up to this point. This decision, this policy for 5 weeks was made during COVID. So you were voting on this during Zoom calls, and all kinds of chaos was happening at the time. Revisiting it is fine. In the future, we need to stabilize things right now. In researching for this, the action minutes are a problem. I agree with an earlier comment. The action minutes are a problem because I can't even see what the discussion was while it was happening. With the executive committee, they were provided this staff report and the resolution the day of the meeting. They didn't get a chance to read it in advance. And then when it was posted on the website, it was still called version 2 when it was actually the third production of the document. And it's little things like that that make it really hard to trust and keep track of the information as a citizen who is already walked in with some experience and understanding of government systems, and then watched how things evolved and how things are evolving day by day as the investigation's happening. I don't even know what, you mentioned gift cards. What gift cards? But yeah, as a member, as somebody who has a lot of deep knowledge on the subject, this proposed 5 weeks going back to that 2021 is a really good start, because you still need to figure out where that 9 weeks came from in the first place, who approved it, whose job it was to write it, review it, implement it. and how it got into the CPA's hands, and if it got into Stan Sarah's hands, and how much and for how long. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Any other public comment?
Doug Benner, City of Series again. So I think this was kind of hastily put together. It was 74 pages. I think the board just got a few, days ago, maybe a week in advance. It wasn't brought before the Management and Finance Committee to look at it all. None of this was discussed. But they're not even doing the things in here now, let alone change it. And so let me give you some examples. I think a person earlier was talking about, if you're working at a higher job pay, description and stuff, you should get pay. That's not being done earlier. And I know vividly why that, who wasn't getting that, but it's not being done now. There's a person working outside of class now is not getting outside pay. So they're not even following their own directions now. Vacation accrual is based on 40 hours per week, but sick leave is based on 30. Why is that? Monica, do you have any idea?
It's not a back and forth, Doug.
Okay, all right. So, and then is one of the things up here earlier, it says, the employee handbook was presented to the policy board in 2021, and then they changed it shortly after that. And so the numbers, I guess, they want to change it to, is that the 9 weeks? Or do we want to change this to cover the outrageous amount that some of the staff got 3 years ago when they got their raises and everything else and made these changes that was never approved by the policy board? Performance evaluations, they're not done on time. We've got people 2, 3, 6 months late on that. And then as far as they give the supervisors, management team, $2,400 a month for car allowance or whatever, but you pay them $150 a month not to drive here. So it doesn't make sense to me. But it seems like it's very hastily put together. I think I'd like to see it at least go back to the Management and Finance Committee for further discussion and kind of iron out all the problems and stuff, because there's some typos in here that says supervisory staff, I think, can hold up to 880 hours in accrual for vacations and stuff. So it just kind of confusing on some of the stuff, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Anything online? Okay, bring it back to the board for more discussion or comments.
Could I just for the purposes of clarity, transparency, public trust, just to address the first public comment made. The executive committee did not get the handbook, and that's why we did not make a decision or any recommendation to the board as a whole. So we wanted to discuss with everybody. I mean, that being said, we wanted to proceed with this item because of the considerations around the grand jury report, around the vacation accrual specifically, and the other items. So I just wanted to clarify or add a little context.
Time is not a consideration for any of the other items except for the vacation accrual. I mean, that would stop in the next pay period.
That is correct.
And so we could take the rest of it and roll it back through management, finance, or whoever wants to see it, if that's what the board so chooses. But I would not wait on the vacation accruals.
I believe the vacation should be reset to 2021. The rest of the stuff, the policy still needs to be gone through completely and fine comb, and do an eval or a comparison per se of everything, and then we can revisit the vacation, and if we need to bump it up or change it, then we can do that at that time. I think it's fair to bring it back to the 2021 at this time as we go forward.
Charlotte, go ahead.
I was going to have a question for Monica. So given the fact that the change of vacation from 5 to 9 weeks was never approved by this board, how is there any legal ramification of us going back or not just simply implementing what was there anyway? And why do we need a discussion or approval on changing something that was never approved in the first place? I'm kind of lost on that. I mean, it was arbitrarily changed by someone who didn't have the authority. It's just like if take my neighbor's house. I don't need, my approval for him to take it back. I took something that didn't belong to me.
So there are labor code provisions that specifically address the clawback of wages, and this would fall within that provision. And we have employees who have been working within the agency who have received these vacation accrual rates through no fault of their own. So we are being advised by outside employment counsel that the policy board take an action. We revert to the 2021 vacation accrual rates, and we set a date and identify when those vacation accrual rates will go into effect.
It seems like there's still a lot of confusion throughout this whole document. And I would like to throw something out to the board is send this back to the finance committee and let them review maybe the 3 items that member Gotkin brought up, or additional items throughout the policy and procedures, and let them review, analyze, and recommend, and then bring that back to us with their recommendations so that we would have a clear understanding and we would be able to vote clearly on what we're trying to do. I totally agree with going back to the 5 weeks vacation. 9 weeks is way too much. But I think there's other questions and other concerns in this document that might need to be brought up, might need to be reviewed. And we can do it as a policy board or send it back to the finance committee and trust their judgment.
Yes, go ahead, Bonnie.
If I may address that. So admittedly, there are more updates that need to be made to the handbook. When we provided it to outside legal counsel, we asked them to focus specifically on the vacation accrual due to the grand jury report in an attempt to be responsive and start bringing all of these items forward to the policy board. I failed to mention as part of my staff presentation that there will be a further amendment coming, likely, in the next couple months, so that there can be a deeper dive in cleaning up some of these items. And I apologize for failing to mention that this purely was to focus on the vacation accrual and also the amendment process for the handbook, and then out of class, because we have had employees recently who have been working out of class, and we wanted to more clearly identify what procedure should be followed. So.
Any other comments?
So was that a motion from him, or do you?
Casey, you want to repeat your motion?
Well, she added a couple more things to it that I know that were there in the beginning, so that those wouldn't fall into what I originally said. So going back, I feel that we need to revert the vacation back to the 2021 time and do a comparison study for benefits and everything. So we fall on the same page, and if we have to make adjustments at that time, we will. To the point of pay when working outside your range, I think we can all agree on that and move forward with that. And then the rest of the handbook needs to be sent back and gone through and brought to us at another time with updates and changes.
I will second that.
I do have a first and a second. Did you get all that? Okay. Go ahead and do a roll call vote, please. Correct.
I am so sorry. Point of clarification.
Rosa?
Did that motion include having the report go to the Finance Management Committee?
Goes where it needs to go.
Well,
The finance to the lawyers, and then it'd have to go through them and then come to us, correct?
okay. Thank you.
Good with the second on that? Go ahead with the roll call vote, please.
Member Chiesa.
Aye.
Member Graywall.
Aye.
Chair Buck Condit.
Aye.
Member Withrow. Vice Chair Carr.
Aye.
Member Swallen.
Aye.
Member Escutia Braden.
Aye.
Member Wright.
Aye.
Member Graham.
Aye.
Member Gilbert.
Aye.
Member Hernandez.
Yes.
Member Phillips.
Aye.
And Member Gokin.
Aye.
Chair, motion passes.
Thank you for that. All right, next on the agenda is the information items. So hopefully everybody's got a chance to look at that. Oh, excuse me. I jumped right over that.
Better not skip that one.
Almost got in trouble right.
Hello.
I Item E, motion to approve by resolution 25-07, fiscal year 25-26, cost of living adjustment, COLA, effective July 1st, 2025, as budgeted for in the approved fiscal year 2025-26 overall work program, the OWP, and budget for Stancog staff employed as of the date the policy board takes action. Jean Coletta, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I'll make this really quick. So as part of the OWP each year and the budget processing, we look at staffing needs to produce what we need as far as staffing. We also look at market conditions assessed to ensure staff compensation maintains alignment with the economy and accommodate the recruitment and retention of staff. The FY 25-26 OWP included a COLA estimate of 4%. That was the estimate at that time. We, as I said, we look at other factors. The Consumer Price Index for the Stanislaus region is issued by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and that's also consulted. Next slide. The CPI for the Stanislaus region is actually 3%, not 4%. So the 3% would be the factor that we would use. Only staff employed as of the date of the policy board takes action will be eligible for this COLA. The COLA is retro to July 1st, 2025. The fiscal impact of the COLA would be about $44,000. And this item was taken to the executive committee, which unanimously approved the motion. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Any questions for Jean?
No questions, just a comment. I feel very strongly about this. This was something that was supposed to happen. Should have happened through the OWP process, and we just didn't have any leadership at the time that could do it. And we're pretty resound in our, that we think that's the right number.
Charlie?
Yeah, and I think this is in line with what all the cities and the counties are giving the employees, and I think it's very reasonable.
Any others? Open it up to public comment. Anything online?
To approve.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Not a roll call vote?
No, I knew which way that was. All right, now back to information items. I hope everybody.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt for clarification purposes. Did I have member Chiesa and member Escutia Brayton? Okay, thank you.
Is it possible to take a break?
We're,
Excuse me, I'm just asking if it's possible to take a
we
5-minute
can
break.
take a break. 5-minute break.
Yeah, good job, James. All right, hurry up.
Okay. There goes.
Go ahead.
We're good. All right. All right. Welcome back. Is there anyone online?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for hanging out with us. We had little technical difficulties if you didn't figure that out, but we're back online now. And we are at the Caltrans report. Sylvia, thank you for being here. Your first time here at
Thank you.
StanCog. Thank you
Thank
for hanging out with us.
Of course. Thank you. My name is Sylvia Dayak. I'm the investment planning manager for Caltrans in District 10. I belong to work in the division of planning, local assistance, and environmental. I'm going to provide a brief Caltrans update tonight. Under Clean California, a total of $1.2 billion were invested since July of 2021. And this money helped throughout California to dedicate cleaning efforts throughout state highway systems. There were also free dump days that were hosted, not just here in the county, but throughout California. There were art pieces installed and parks were beautified as well. And then the California Transportation Commission invested a total of $3 billion to enhance under the Enhanced Safety and Multimodal Travel Option Program, and $321,000 went to support the Church Street Mobility Enhancement Project. That's in the community of Empire, and that effort was led by StanCog. And then Caltrans is currently working with StanCog and other local agencies on receiving nomination intake forms, and that's specifically for the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, and then also the Solution for Congested Corridor programs. Our agency, Caltrans, also provides letters of support. So if there's any city or county that is looking for local grants, state or federal grants, you're welcome to contact me directly, and I can help and provide a letter of support. This concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you. Any questions for Sylvia? Sorry you had to hang out with us. All right. Thank you very much for being here again. Moving on, interim executive director report. Elizabeth.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members of the board. I'm sure most of you are now aware that I have submitted my letter of retirement to StanCog this month. I've been with StanCog for over 10 years, starting as a senior transportation planner and working my way up to principal planner and then deputy director of planning. And in these various roles, I've helped to lead StanCog to achieve many milestones, including completion of 3 RTP-SESs and advancement of a 4th, which will be completed sometime next summer, as well as preparation of 2 congestion management process updates, awards for a number of grants, including the most recent REAP 2 award of over $7 million. The work accomplished to date is a strong point from which to continue the RTP-SES, REAP, and other work in the future. During my tenure, I've brought state and national recognized consultants to the agency to help conduct air, land use, transportation modeling, and to perform other highly technical analyses. And this, along with the work of StanCog staff and management, has resulted in state and federal agencies recognizing our planning work as being top tier and on par with much larger regional transportation agencies with significantly more resources and staff. There have been many other significant accomplishments made by this agency, made possible due to the hard work of StanCog staff and management, your support, our consultants, and with the strong support as well of Caltrans District 10, Caltrans headquarters, Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration, and the California Transportation Commission. And I offer my sincere thanks and gratitude for all that you and these representatives have done to help StanCog with our achievements. And it has truly been an honor to work for you. I appreciate what Member Withrow pointed out today, saying StanCog is us. And it is my sincere hope that StanCog's member agencies will take that in and celebrate our, the member agencies, StanCog boards, many achievements, and support StanCog in moving forward to ensure continued momentum to benefit the region and its residents. So anyway, thank you very much. And it's sad to say goodbye, but I just wanted to thank you for all your support over the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Comments?
Elizabeth, it's Vito. I don't know. I'm over here in the corner. You can kind of see my arm moving right there. But I want to thank you for all that you've done for StanCog. I'm proud of the work you've done. This last SES, we were the first to adopt, and largely because of you. And that was what really gave us a platform to probably sneak some more money into Stanislaus County ahead of the other folks in the valley who didn't have adopted plans. And I wish you the best in your non-retirement. I know that you're retiring, but I know that you won't retire. You're too valuable in your field. And I just hope you have a great life, but I just want you to know that I'm always around if you're bored, because I love picking your brain.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all very much. Thank you, Vito. I also, I meant to say, I wanted to remind you about, there were 2 flyers that were left at your chairs. One about the upcoming 132 West Public Open House meeting that's going to be on October 2nd. Jose Luis mentioned that at the Mark Gallo Health and Fitness Center at 5:30. And then also about the RTP SES meetings that are going to be kicked off with the community as transportation plan community meetings. And those are going to be held in September and October. And the dates of those, all the specifics, the locations can be obtained on our valleyvision2049.com website. That's our official website for the RTP SES. And if you need more information or are unable to locate that, definitely contact the StanCog office and they'll get the information to you. But anyway, thank you again, everybody, and I wish you the best in the future.
Any other comments? Elizabeth, thank you for all the work that you've done here. You've been, as the entire agency has been successful, a large amount of that has been because of you. Your ideas and different perspectives that you've been able to come at those, all the different projects. And thank you for your assistance as the chair. Thank you for helping me. I appreciate it very much. And just want to say thank you.
Thank you for those kind words.
All right. Moving on. We do have closed session, and Monica, if you want to give a report on closed session. Oh, did I skip? Man, I am skipping over stuff all the time. Member reports, any member reports?
My quick little update. Oh, sorry.
Please.
Go ahead. Measure L project update for the month. Construction work continues on the Measure L funded scenic project reconstruction and pavement overlay from Bodum to Oakdale Road. Underground work on the eastbound lanes has been completed and traffic shifted to complete underground work on the westbound lanes. Pending weather, the project expects to be complete in late fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for that. Go ahead, Ray.
And as part of the ad hoc committee for the executive director search, I just want to say we've met twice already. We're prioritizing the speedy timeline that we're all feeling the pressure of while not compromising the quality of this whole process and the candidates moving forward.
Thank you for that report. Any others? Okay, we do have closed session tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The board will be adjourning to closed session to discuss items 12A, B, and C as identified on the agenda.
Any public comment on closed session? Seeing none, we will go into closed session. Okay, we are reconvening from closed session. There is reportable action.
The policy board has returned from closed session. All of the members as identified on the roll were present for the duration of the closed session. By a 9-4 vote, the policy board appointed Jean Filetta as interim executive director with a 10% increase to base salary to be effective immediately. There is no additional reportable action, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Moving on to 14, motion to approve by resolution 25-08, the response to the Stanislaus County Civil Grand Jury Report Case 25-06C, Monica Streeter.
Before you is a motion to approve the response to the Stanislaus Civil Grand Jury Report. Next slide, please. On June 25th of this year, StanCog received the 2024-25 Stanislaus County Civil Grand Jury Report. We are required to respond to all of the findings and recommendations that are contained in that report, and our response is due by September 23rd of 2025. If approved this evening, the response will be provided to the providing Superior Court judge, and then it will also be made available on our website. And with that, that concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Monica? Seeing none, open it up for public comment. Carolyn, you had a card in?
Address it.
All right, thank you. Anybody online?
No comments online.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the policy board for a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a first, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. All right. Moving on to adjournment.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you.